Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the January 22nd, 2025 special meeting of the Northampton City Council. I'm Alex Jarrett. As City Council President, I'll be presiding this evening along with Vice President Rachel Maori. This meeting and all participating in person and on Zoom will be audio and video recorded, and the meeting can also be watched on Comcast Channel 15 or by streaming on Northampton Open Media's YouTube channel. Now call the City Council to order. Could you take the roll, please?
Councillor Dobbs.
Here.
Councillor Elkins.
Here.
Councillor Jarrett.
Here.
Councillor Clemmer.
Here.
Councillor Labarge.
Here.
Councillor Maori.
Here.
Councillor Moulton.
Here.
Councillor Perry.
Here.
And Councillor Rothenberg.
Here.
Council President, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Tonight we'll be taking up the 6 capital improvement program financial orders and 1 free cash financial order that were delayed from last Thursday's meeting. The first item on the agenda is the first capital improvement program financial order that was subject to a charter objection on January 16th. That is 24.192, an order to appropriate $1.75 million from capital stabilization for various capital projects. And so we can take up where we left off. We did have some discussion on this one prior to the delay. Councillor Dobbs.
Yeah, I was just curious if, based on what I talked about last meeting, is it possible to separate the 3 police cruisers and have maybe a separate vote on that from that list?
Yes. So that would be a motion to divide the order. Is that correct, Laura?
Yes.
Understanding. So we would then create that. If that passes, that would create a 24.192A and a 24.192B, and then we could discuss those separately. Were you interested in making that motion, Councilor?
Yes, I'll make that motion to divide that.
And the line item that you want to divide is the police department 3 police cruisers in the amount of $309,670.
Yes, please.
Okay, is there a second for that division?
I'll second it.
Motion made by Councillor Dobbs and seconded by Councillor Maori to divide the order, removing the line item for the 3 police cruisers and having it considered separately. Any discussion on division? Okay, roll call, please.
Councillor Dobbs.
Yes.
Councillor Elkins.
No.
Councillor Jarrett.
Yes.
Councillor Clemmer. Councillor Clemmer.
Did you lose her?
Sorry, no. Sorry, I had my mute.
Okay. Councillor Labarge.
No.
Councillor Maori.
Yes.
Councillor Moulton.
No.
Councillor Perry.
Yes.
And Councillor Rothenberg.
Yes.
4 noes.
So 5 yeses, 4 noes, the motion carries. The order is now divided, and we will take up the A portion. I'm just making this up. The A will be everything but the police cruisers, and then B will be that. Councillor Rothenberg.
Yes, maybe somebody who has their book open would be able to help me with this motion. But I actually wanted to make a motion to separate out anything not marked as a high priority.
And so your question would be, what is a high priority?
Well, I think it's outlined.
Oh, go ahead.
I think it's outlined as such in the book. I don't have the book in front of me at the moment. I just have my shorthand. But I think there were things bundled in here that were medium and low priority, or at least medium projects. So I would make a motion to bifurcate the high and everything else.
So that language is no longer used. It's rather priority numbering. And someone would need to specify the exact line items that are going to be divided.
Okay, so I put it out there in case anyone wants to pick it up. Thanks.
Okay, discussion or motion on 24.192A.
I'd make a motion to approve that. That's the
second
one.
it.
That's the right. Gotcha. Yeah.
Yep. So motion made by Councillor Dubs and seconded by Councillor Clemmer to approve 24.192A, everything but the Police Department 3 police cruisers. Discussion? Councillor Rothenberg.
Yes, and this is for everything but the police cruisers, is what you
Correct.
just. So my feelings about this are that to use the colloquial phrase, the lower or medium priority projects, I think it amounts to $200,000 worth of projects. It doesn't feel to me like there's a need to put those on right now. I noticed that in our financial forecasting, we have the interest income again very low, because we're using those 3-year look backs. And I noticed that our Q1 interest earnings were already $500,000, whereas our estimate for the whole year is at like $180,000. So to me, I would not prioritize spending $200,000 right now when we're likely to have a surplus at the end of the year that could go towards that. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, roll call please on 24.192A.
Councillor Elkins,
Yes.
Councillor Jarrett,
Yes.
Councillor Clemmer,
Yes.
Councillor Labarge,
Yes.
Councillor Maori,
Yes.
Councillor Moulton,
Yes.
Councillor Perry,
Yes.
Councillor Rothenberg,
No.
and Councillor Dubs.
Yes.
That passes with 8 yes votes and 1 no vote. We now come to 24.192B, which is the Police Department 3 police cruisers. Discussion or a motion?
I move to approve.
I second that.
Second that.
Okay, motion made by Councillor Elkins and seconded by Councillor Perry to approve. Discussion? Councillor Labarge?
Yes, thank you. I had mentioned it at City Council in regards how I had talked with Chief Cartledge, and we had a lengthy talk about the cruisers. And I told him I didn't see anything in the report about the cost of maintenance and so forth on those 3 vehicles. And he did state again that the cost to maintain their fleet is approximately $126,566 per year, which includes the fuel and cruiser repairs. As a city councilor, we hear a lot about our fire department. And then we're hearing about now recently defunding the police. The fire department and police department work very closely together. They need the cruisers for 24/7 a week. That's a lot of time using vehicles here. So this is my main concern, is that they're asking for this. There's reasons for safety, just like a fire department, to be where they should be. So I'm supporting this 100%.
Thank you. Councillor Rothenberg?
Yes, to that point, I'm just confused as to why fuel is included because the new cars will need fuel as well. But I don't think it's necessarily something that has to be clarified tonight because it's really goes back to this sort of bigger question of operational audits. We're running the cars hard 24/7, like you say. I would be very interested if finance had taken that sort of 90-day review period with this SIP to have used some of that time to have done an operational audit, to maybe review some of the policies, see how we are using the cars and whether we need to be working them that hard. So I think for me, just because the work feels like it hasn't been done, it's not possible for me to make an intelligent vote one way or the other tonight. And this will be an abstention for Ward 3.
Councillor Perry.
Sorry, let me take my hand down first. I will be supporting this for a number of reasons. Mostly is that this for me is not an increase in funding the police. This is basically sustaining the fleet. As Councilor Labarge said, these cars are in use every day. I've worked with the chief over the last few years and come to realize that the police cars and cruisers are basically their office. It's really just where they do all of their work. While I do understand the calls to reimagine policing and whatnot, this is not giving anything to the police other than the tools that they need to just do the basics of their job. If we do not approve new cruisers, then we run the risk of other incidents happening, more maintenance. And so for me, it's really just maintaining a level point. I know that we're working towards figuring out other alternatives, but again, this is just an essential need for them. It's the basic need for the police department. They are still fielding a unusually high amount of calls. They are here doing all sorts of work for our community. And so for me, this seems like something that we should support, and I will.
Councillor Elkins.
I just wanted to clarify, I think to Councillor Labarge's question about the operating cost, the answer from Chief Cartledge, as I understand it, isn't that operating cost is rolled into the SIP appropriation that we're voting on tonight. Those are operating costs that have come out of the police operating budget, so that's not a question I would have thought to have asked in finance because I understand that to be the case. I also want to thank Councillor Dubs for moving efficiently to pull this out so that we can have a discussion and then we can just vote on each of us vote on it on the merits of sort of how we feel. That's the ideal way for us to conduct our business, and so I very much appreciate that. I will be voting in support for the reasons that Councillor Perry put forward. So just to clarify that the operating costs come out of the operating budget, and also are reflective of the entire fleet, not just these. As I think it was the chief who answered that question at the last meeting. There was somebody clarified that at the last meeting that was the operating cost for the entire fleet, not just for these three, just for the new cruisers. Thanks.
Other discussion. Councillor Maori.
Yeah, I was just curious if Councillor Dubs had, curious what sparked your interest in separating them out.
Mainly because I feel strongly about voting yes on everything else on the list, but I felt just a little uncomfortable voting or vote. I guess I'll be a no vote on the cruisers. It's not a judgment, on other people's opinions. It's just my personal opinion on that. Yeah, I felt like because it was the highest expense on that list, that it just didn't seem to be what I thought that our priorities should be. But I respect everyone else's opinion. So,
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Well, I will weigh in. Yeah, that if we don't replace these on a schedule, then we get behind, and our return on investment declines. We end up spending more in repairs, and the question of alternatives to police is a separate one that I want us to continue to pursue. Okay, roll call please on approval.
Okay. Counselor Jarrett,
Yes.
Counselor Clemmer,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Rothenberg,
Abstain.
Counselor Dobbs,
No.
and Counselor Elkins.
Yes.
Okay, that passes with 7 yes votes, 1 abstention, and 1 no vote. That was 24.192B, the police department, 3 police cruisers. Next order is 24.193, in order to appropriate $75,000 from climate mitigation stabilization for Jackson Street School insulation. And we have yet to discuss this in second reading. So we did have some discussion previously. Councilor Rothenberg.
Yes, this one is a yes for Ward 3. It makes sense to me. It's a modest amount, and I like the source of the funding that it's coming from, the Climate Fund. I think that's appropriate.
Any other discussion or motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Sorry, who was the second? Clemmer? Councilor Clemmer? Okay.
Yeah.
Motion made by Councilor Elkins and seconded by Councilor Clemmer. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call please on approval.
Counselor Clemmer,
Yes.
Counselor Labarge,
Yes.
Counselor Maori,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Rothenberg,
Yes.
Counselor Dobbs,
Yes.
Counselor Elkins,
Yes.
and Counselor Jarrett.
Yes. That passes unanimously. Brings us to 24.194, in order to appropriate $7.4 million in free cash to various capital projects. They are Central Services, Northampton Public Schools, Smith Vocational Health and Human Services, IT Services, and Department of Public Works is the largest, with the Northampton High School safety improvements, 1.6 million, and the water Main Street corridor utility infrastructure, 3.15 million. Councilor Rothenberg.
There's a lot to say about this one because there's so much grouped together. I think I'll just focus on a couple of points. And the first being just that there's so much grouped together. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't see the rhyme or reason for that. I think there's like there's some low priority money in here, again, to use a colloquial term, low priority projects. But there's also the Picture Main Street project, which I just don't understand why we're not talking about more as a council, because it's very clear that the constituents have serious concerns about it. And I think they've done a fabulous job advocating in responsible ways about it. I came to the presentation that they gave right before I was sworn in as a counselor, and I was impressed by that. I've been hearing many reasons that it makes sense to take a pause. And I think certainly even with a project that we've worked on for 10 years, that when a pandemic happens in the middle of it, there are lots of reasons where it makes good sense economically to take a pause. I do worry very much about our downtown businesses being able to survive it. I think that they are a part of our community to the people who live here and not just replaceable. I've seen lots of great questions raised around the safety issues and climate issues. And I just think there's so many reasons that we shouldn't be rushing in to fund this at this moment. I would really like to potentially even revisit the resolution and sort of update what Ward 3's stance might be on that. Those are my thoughts.
Thanks. I'll give a direct response. So we are not voting on the Picture Main Street project, or we are voting on as part of this, the water and sewer infrastructure under Main Street. And that if Picture Main Street goes forward, and I understand, I have no reason to believe that it won't, that this gives us an opportunity to replace that infrastructure at a lower cost. Because the street will already be dug up for us at the state's expense. If the project somehow did not go forward, then we probably would not do the water and sewer infrastructure at this time. But it is not a referendum. If we didn't vote on this, it's not that Picture Main Street wouldn't go forward. We would just lose this opportunity to save money on and repair the very much needed repair that has to happen for water and sewer infrastructure, as we have water main breaks that have happened on Main Street recently and are costly. Councillor Clemmer.
Yeah, it's just it's pretty much what you said. I just want to speak to the infrastructure under Main Street, and I'd rather spend $3 million now at $3.5 million that have been set aside by the mayor and Director Nardi in anticipation of Picture Main Street, and instead of us having to spend many more millions to dig up the street out of the residents' pockets and getting loans, and doing it in a thoughtful way like this, it actually protects the residents of Main Street, because we won't have surprise water main breaks, which are inevitable since the pipes are over 100 years old. And that would be way more disruptive to business than doing it in a thoughtful, planned way like we're going to do it. And it needs to be done no matter what. So I think this is a wonderful opportunity, since the streets are going to be dug up, not on our dime. And I think it's foolish if we don't take advantage of it.
So I saw Councillor Moulton, then Councillor Labarge, then Councillor Maori.
Yes, thank you. Just to underscore what both Councillors Jarrett and Clemmer have just said, this is not a referendum on Picture Main Street. This is a vote on money that has already been set aside for infrastructure improvements while the Main Street is dug up. And to amplify what has been said, not only would we lose the opportunity to do these improvements and save money while the street is dug up, but if we don't use this money, this ARPA money, it's not available for anything else. And can either Director Nardi or Mayor Shara speak to what would happen to this money if it's not appropriated for this purpose? Thank you.
Mayor Shara.
Hi, good evening, councilors. So this is actually coming from ARPA lost revenue money. So we're using it for an ARPA approved use, which is infrastructure. But this is the money that was sort of taken out of the sort of ARPA timeline and put in and was taken as lost revenue. But it's very important that we do this work. I understand. I appreciate everyone's comments that this is not a discussion or referendum on Picture Main Street, but this work has to go alongside Picture Main Street. This work has to be done in general. You all have made excellent points about this, that this is very old infrastructure that does need to be replaced, and this is an opportunity to do it at far less cost. But additionally, Picture Main Street involves a complete reconstruction of our sidewalks. It's a repaving of the streets. That infrastructure will not survive that work. That needs to be done. And so, I know all of you have walked the sidewalks of Main Street, and they desperately need to be reconstructed. The work that will be done for that would compromise this infrastructure even more. So it has to be replaced because it's old. It also has to be replaced because this is a state tip project, and it will necessitate that we replace this with new infrastructure that will stand the test of time, hopefully for many, many, many decades, as this has.
And can I just
Go ahead.
follow up?
Yes.
So, Mayor, if for some reason this money were not approved for that purpose, what would happen to to those ARPA funds?
We would use it for another infrastructure project.
Which and there's no backup plan at this point.
No, we would then have to come up with over $3 million for the water and sewer infrastructure under Main Street.
Okay, thank you.
So I will just say, I mean, the pandemic sort of gave us an opportunity to address some of our infrastructure. It was, a very hard, trying experience, but from it, communities across the country were able to address a lot of deferred maintenance on their infrastructure.
Councilor Labarge.
Yes, I think Donna Lascalia is here. Yes, I'd like to ask her something, please. Is she here?
Yes. Welcome, Director.
Oh,
Go
okay.
ahead, Councilor Labarge.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, Donna. How you doing?
Hi, good evening, Councilor.
Bye. Listen, I have a resident, and I think I'm not sure if I brought it up at last city council meeting or not, but he was saying that one item on tonight's agenda is spending $3.15 million upgrading the drain pipes under Main Street, which he knows that. He says this would be an improvement over current storm capacity. But the project's own state environmental certification shows that it is designed to handle only 6 inches of rainfall and not the 10 inches projections indicate may occur in a future storm. Would we be digging up downtown for a lasting solution or only a temporary one? So could you answer that, please?
Sure, Counselor. I think that we just want to be careful to differentiate between stormwater infrastructure and water and sewer infrastructure. So the order tonight is about funding water and sewer upgrades.
Right.
Stormwater is what I think the resident is referring to, and that is actually funded by Mass DOT. I think we talked a little bit about this last time. Tool Engineering is the design firm on Main Street. They have a sub-consultant, BSC Group. BSC has designed the stormwater to Massachusetts state stormwater standards, and they have modeled different potential precipitation events. So I think what your resident is referring to is not the size of the pipes, but potential sizes of rainfall, kind of consecutive rainfall that happens all at once. So we have what's called a 10-year storm or a 25-year storm, and those can create a scenario where you have a lot of rain in a very short amount of time that then overwhelms the system. But I think what your constituent is talking about is stormwater, which is actually unrelated to the water in store.
Okay. Well, this was from Chris Stratton on Ward 6, so hopefully he's hearing it. And if not, I will let him know exactly what was mentioned. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Maori.
Yeah, I was just wondering if the director, the finance director, could answer the question about how the groupings are made that Councilor Rothenberg brought up. Or the mayor, or whoever could.
Good evening. Yes, so as I mentioned before, it's basically how much money we're planning to spend. So from free cash, the amount was determined by taking a third minus the money that was set aside from the ARPA lost revenue, minus the amount we carried over. Well, excuse me, no, minus the 3.1 million. We took a third of that, and then I was going to use those for capital projects. So then I just basically take the amount that I have been told the projects cost, and I try to add them up to that amount.
Oh.
Same with capital stabilization. I try to use a percentage of the capital stabilization, and then I just take the projects, and it's not that they correlate to one another, it's how much money in total they add up to.
Thank you.
Councilor Perry. There you go.
Couple things. Hey, you can hear me now. One of my favorite parts about being a counselor are these amazing tours that we get to take with all of our departments, and I'm always thankful to ride along with Director Lascalia, and she's talked for years about being forward thinking and taking advantage of when state projects happen to do infrastructure work because it saves us the cost of digging up things. So I know that's been said, but I just want to salute the department for being forward thinking and saving us money. And then I just wanted to say, as a person who has spent most of my adult life and most of my life working downtown in Northampton, upgrading this water and sewer is very important, especially as we think towards our future. There have been water main breaks. Every time there is a water main break, that is money that is lost from these businesses. We are still trying to recover in downtown from the pandemic. Anyone who drives through our city at night can attest to that. And so as we also think of ways to sort of renovate downtown, bring more residential areas, if people want to, bring in, change offices into residential areas, we're going to need more water. We need a stable system. And also for some places, renovations will require upgrades to their sprinkler systems and fire. And I think that this is a way to get us prepared for the future of Northampton. So I see no problem with it, and I'm thankful that we're taking advantage of this opportunity.
Councilor Elkins.
I just wanted to say, if it were a referendum on Project Main Street, I somewhat famously, or maybe infamously, said in the newspaper, in addition to my vote, I would be supporting that. So this is a very wise decision and use of revenue, of money that came our way as a result of, as the mayor said, of an unfortunate situation. But it certainly, all things being considered, I wouldn't have liked Infrastructure Week to have happened because of a pandemic. But anybody who follows sort of municipal finance and infrastructure and the neglect nationwide over many years, that was a small drop in the bucket of correcting some long standing neglect, not just here, but across the country, that came with those ARPA funds. So I think this is good use of it. So.
Thank you. Councilor Rothenberg.
Thanks. I certainly don't have any illusions that I will be convincing any of my colleagues tonight to vote with me. It will be an emphatic no from Ward 3, but I do want to just make a record for my constituents of what we're voicing with this vote and some of the thinking that goes into it. I'm skeptical of where the estimate is. I think it's probably low, that 3 million and change. I'm skeptical about our economy being able to really survive the 3 years of construction. I think we would be wise to try to scale it back to maybe a 1-year plan if we could, and to really revisit that. That seems worse than a pandemic to me. When it comes to the funding source, I note that the ARPA lost revenue funds have the federal government telling us is the very first, possible use of these funds. They can be used for the operational services of the government. So I just want to put that out there so anybody watching understands that they're not tied into sort of this one-time funds thing. I mean, they're a replacement for recurring revenue from the pandemic. So there's a lot of options for how you would use them. And, I would just note that when I was running for election, you can go back and hear an interview that I did on the radio with Bill Newman, where I said I was so excited and it's going to be a fabulous project and it's like free for us. But since I've started doing this work and really trying to do my due diligence with the finances, I'm just disappointed again that Finance Committee didn't take more time with this, because I think that it's not free quantitatively. It's probably going to be a bigger hit than 3 million, both in terms of the cost of doing it, but also in terms of the hit to our economy. And I think, again, there's the qualitative argument, which is that even if it were free, if it resulted in losing some of these businesses that have been a part of our community for a very long time, I don't know that we would want to make those trades in Ward 3. And then finally, just as to the necessity of doing it, the water pipes, for me, the jury is sort of still out because I've heard different things from this administration at different times about whether that necessity is really there or whether it just comes there once we start the work and then the pipes can't withstand that work. So again, it's a huge, like sort of broad ranging thing. I cannot get into all of the details and all of the questions that I have. I just really wish that our city government would sit with those a little bit more. I know that you all feel like you've done this already from my constituents' perspectives and from my personal perspective as well. We really would like a pause, and I wouldn't put this money there at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions about the order and other items in the order? I have one about the Northampton High School safety improvements, which is a project I support overall, but I do want to note that the issues of slowing traffic are still a concern for me, that the signalization is not going to slow traffic. When there's a green light, people will go through quite fast. And we know that people make mistakes and take risks, and our designs should be as forgiving as possible so that if there is a crash or a fatal or serious injury is extremely unlikely to occur. So I've given feedback to Directors LaScalia and Mish and understand there are additional changes being made that will be brought back to a future Transportation and Parking Commission meeting. They're working on the issue. And so I look forward to that further discussion and encourage any and all traffic calming measures to be added to this project. Councillor Rothenberg.
Thank you for reminding me. I wanted to speak to that project too. My constituents really feel like this project's design is not complete and that there needs to be more time talking with the community about it. I think that in light of that, we feel that funding a project before the design is even complete is truly premature, and this could be a mid-year appropriation once you're ready. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, roll call please on this 24.194.
Don't believe there's a motion on the floor.
Oh, thank you, Laura.
Second,
Well, wait, what was the first? Who made the motion?
Eric.
Councilor Perry.
Okay. Motion made by Councilor Perry and seconded by Councilor Moulton to approve. Roll call, please.
Councillor Labarge,
Yes.
Councillor Maori,
Yes.
Councillor Moulton,
Yes.
Councillor Perry,
Yes.
Councillor Rothenberg,
No.
Councillor Dobbs,
Yes.
Councillor Elkins,
Yes.
Councillor Jarrett,
Yes.
and Councillor Clemmer.
Yes.
That passes with 8 yes votes and 1 no. Next is 24.196, an order to appropriate $643,000 parking receipts reserved for parking projects. They are all central services projects. We have the generator replacement, garage repairs, a low-profile sweeper, and pay kiosk upgrades for the card readers. And just to note that this is run as a closed system, and that the parking fees pay for the work of the services provided in the form of parking, and there is the parking receipts reserved account is what is funding this. Councilor Rothenberg.
Thanks. I actually support all of the remaining financial orders. And so I wanted to make a motion, if we could, to just group them together, all of the capital improvement ones. So all the way through 24.201.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Rothenberg and seconded by Councilor Elkins to move 24.196, 24.200, and 24.201 as a group for approval. Councilor Maori.
Yeah, hi. I just so I support these. I just want to say that there was a kind of mischaracterization in the paper. I, as chair of finance, did not say that we shouldn't spend any money before we know how much is in the budget. I did think that passing urgent capital orders and then waiting until after our meeting next week, which is the updated review of the financial condition of the city. Just to be clear, it's not a budget look. I thought that would be helpful, but I just wanted to clear that up. And I will be supporting all of these.
Thank you. Councilor Elkins.
Yeah, I just I want to reassure my colleague, Councilor Maori. I was there, so I read the paper, so I understood. I understood what you said, and I think it's good that you clarified for other folks who may have been relying on the paper for that. But I thought you were clear in what you were thinking about, what you were trying to do. So I appreciate that.
Councilor Rothenberg.
Yes, and I also wanted to clarify that the charter objections for me are not reflective of and don't accomplish delaying projects. The charter objections delay a vote to the next meeting, and it's up to us when we choose our next meeting. I believe Attorney Seawald advised us at our very first meeting this term that the delay would be a 24-hour minimum. And so to me, when we talk about delaying the urgent votes, we're talking about, delaying the non-urgent votes. We were talking about going to February 6th, after the joint meeting. Anything that got delayed to this point, to today, I don't really feel like is a true delay. I feel like it's an extension of a conversation. I wanted us to all be able to have that time to think about which ones were urgent. It seems like now that we've gotten here, my colleagues have decided they just want to go forward with all of them. And here we are at the end of them. And I understand that. I understand that that's your wishes on council. My wish would have been not only for February 6th for anything non-urgent, but even further into that 90-day review period, or for some of these even to June 6th. I really am concerned about the financial management of the city. I am not so concerned about the financial condition of the city, and that remains my position. So thank you all for reconvening tonight so that we could have some more time to think about urgencies.
Councilor Clemmer.
Yeah, just since we're clarifying misquotes, and I'd like to clarify something also. When I get the agenda and I know something, we're going to be talking about something, I talk to department heads, I research the projects. I'm in a lot of the committees that discuss these items. If I don't understand something or I'm not sure about something, I talk to people about it. So it's not, I'm not just voting with the mayor or voting the way other councilors want me to vote. I do a lot of research leading up to this. So I just want to put that out there because there's been a lot of accusations made, especially on social media, that just aren't true. So, I do a lot of work, and delaying these items till June is going to be detrimental to the projects because we won't get a good bid, we won't get a good price, and they probably won't happen. And just at the transportation and parking meeting, we learned that we had for the Rocky Hill Greenway project, since we got the bids out so early, we got 12 responses back of people who wanted to take on that project. So, a month or even 3 weeks does make a big difference with the delays here. And I also haven't heard from Councilor Rothenberg to try to reach out to talk about any of these projects during these delays. So I think that's an important part of a charter objection, is to discuss it with your colleagues and try to learn more or see where other people are at.
Councilor Labarge.
Yes, thank you. You know, I want to echo some of the things that Councilor Kremer just come out with. And it's really funny because I wrote down some things of concern as a counselor. And I just want to say that it is true that the city council plays a vital role, both in being that outside voice and asking challenging questions about particular plans. And I have to say, as a city councilor for many years, I have worked very closely with department heads. I've worked very closely with the finance directors also. I've also worked with the mayor when I had a difference with the mayor with respect and dignity. That's very valuable. Very valuable for councilors also with respect and dignity. We have an important role to play, and there's no question about it. So I just wanted to bring that up because Debbie did come out with some valuable issues here. And it's our role. We work with department heads. We ask them heavy questions. That is part of our role. So thank you, Council President, for letting me speak.
You're welcome. Councilor Dubs.
Thank you. I wanted to address the order on the sidewalk repairs, 24.201. I just wanted to just address that the fact that we are putting $1 million towards sidewalks this year is a really big deal, and I think that we should be proud of ourselves for doing that. I've lived here for over 20 years now, and this is the most amount of money ever put towards fixing our sidewalks in 1 year. And these decisions that we make here at council, they have real life consequences, real life effects on people's lives. And I think we need to always remember that. When we charter object on something without giving it enough thought, it affects people's lives. I'll give an example. For the past year or actually more, there is a father of a disabled teenager, and he lives in Ward 5, one of Councilor Jarrett's constituents. And he's been coming to the Disability Commission meetings on a regular basis. And he doesn't have to, he has a job, he has a life, he's got responsibilities, but he takes the time to volunteer, to come to our meetings, to advocate for his son, so that his son can have a better childhood and have sidewalks in front of his house that are safe and that he can play and go outside and play and hang out with his friends. I will tell you all right now, I've been disabled my entire life. I was born disabled. I've never walked. I've always been in a wheelchair. I was lucky to live in a neighborhood that had sidewalks that were good, and I could hang out and ride my skateboard, sit on my skateboard and ride around. The son of this father on Chestnut Street, his son is going to be he's going to be able to go out now and enjoy his childhood. Childhood is fleeting. We all know that as adults, that childhood is short and fleeting. And these are very important decisions that we're making. And so we should always give it the right amount of thought. Councilor Roxenberg, she's been reminding us that we need to give these decisions thought. Well, I will ask her to please think more next time you charter object to a project that has real life consequences. I'm just going to add that, in addition to advocating for his son, Chestnut Street was not on the priority list for sidewalks until this guy kept coming to our meetings. So, this matters when people get involved in government, and they reach out to us and say, this is what we need as a city. I became councilor because I knew that we needed better sidewalks, and it needs to happen now. It should have happened a long time ago. It's not the fault of anybody here that they haven't been fixed yet, but we can make a difference now. and there's no need to wait at all. Every day that we wait is another day that a disabled child cannot use the sidewalks to get around this city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Dubs. Councilor Labarre, go
Yes,
back.
Thank
Oh,
you. I'm going to echo Councilor Dubs 100%. 100%. You are looking at, again, Florence Road by Florence Heights, which is Ward 5, Ward 6. Councilor Jarrett and I went with the ADA coordinator. We have residents at Florence Heights. We have residents on the opposite side of inner streets there who are disabled, who have difficulties. They can't walk down that hill at all. And I even had teachers, I did it myself with teachers, going down with children from Florence Heights. Unacceptable, unacceptable. It was proven facts by our ADA coordinator, both with Councilor Alex Jarrett and I. The curbing was not ADA accessible. The sidewalks were not ADA accessible. For 17 to 18 years, that's all I've heard is we do not have the money. So, Councilor Dubs, I have to tell you, 18 years is a long time to try to make it safe for everybody involved using that sidewalk, because they're hardly not using it anymore. Just last year, the teachers also were talking about that coming down that sidewalk by Hampshire Heights. Deplorable, deplorable. And I said, it's got to happen here. We do not have sidewalks all the way on Florence Road. We are very fortunate to have it coming down that hill, but for years, nothing. Now we're going to get it. That was a big surprise for me, a big surprise. And then we hear from people about us supporting sidewalks. I have, even on Ryan Road, which Donna Lascalia, the director, knows the problem there. I have water on the sidewalks in the wintertime that freeze. You want to talk about safety for the children that walk? They end up out in the road. I am fully in support of this. And I know many other people with children who have disabilities, or anybody will support that 100%. Thank you, Councilor Doze.
Councilor Rothenberg, then Councilor Clemmer.
Thanks. Thank you, Jeremy, for being vulnerable and strong. And I agree that you have accomplished a lot since you came into term, pushing for these sidewalks. I want to make clear that the way that we approach finances in the city doesn't necessarily reflect a difference of priority. But I understand from you that the impact of my charter objection was to signal to you that it's not a priority for me, that sidewalks are not a priority. And I own that impact that it's had on you, which is why when we spoke about this privately, I said, hey, thank you for letting me know. I will never charter object to anything with sidewalks again, now that you've let me know how this makes, what this signals, right? Because what's so important to me is signaling that this is important. And I think for Ward 3 especially, the sidewalks and the schools have been a side-by-side issue. Like in our top 5 priorities has been for the whole city to have better sidewalks, to have flood protection, to have good public schools. These are really, really, really at the very, very top of all of our taxpayers' lists, and it's what they expect us to do with their taxes. To me, when I do the financial analysis, part of what concerns me with the whole SIP process is that we as a council aren't even looking at what's happened necessarily with the money that we've already given to the mayor in prior years. We don't have regular reports tracking that the same way that we get quarterly reports on revenue and expenses. So I did ask Director Nardi to provide that information to me. And she didn't have it in a clear, clean report because it wasn't something that seemed to be prepared for anyone. But I hope that we would work on making that something that we're regularly sharing. Like, Mayor, We said as a community we wanted this project done. What's happened with it? What's happened with the money? Where are we? Right? And I notice, and I've asked for that to be put on the website now. I hope it will be for all the public to see. You know, I notice when I look at it, there's $4 million worth of projects that have had zero spending, just sort of sitting there. And it's not to mention many projects that have had just less than 5% spent out on what we funded them for. So when I give this mayor money, I want to make sure she's using it. And I see, you know, $600,000 for sidewalks going back to 2022 that hadn't been used yet. So while I do want to give her more money for sidewalks, and I don't think this is enough money for sidewalks, and I want them all to be fixed as soon as possible, I also don't think that spending a couple of days to talk about putting ducks in a row about the process and making sure that we're starting to make steps towards accountability, I don't think that that delays the sidewalks by 2 days. I don't think that that's how the project management is going to play out. You know, that us having sort of a way of raising the issue, that the people's concerns need to come first. I don't feel that's obstructionist, because I think that if the people's voice came first, we would see a hell of a lot more money for sidewalks. You know, so I want to keep prioritizing that. But I also fully stand behind you. And I also want to give a small shout out to the Ward 3 sidewalk group that meets regularly, just to name a few of them that are so active. Una, Jonathan, Lola. Keep going. Maybe Ward 3 will get its sidewalks too. Thank you to all who are advocating for it.
Mayor Shara, is this a direct response?
I'm actually hoping that Director Lascalia can be given an opportunity to respond.
Director Lascalia.
Okay, thank you. I just a comment about sidewalk funding. I think I've mentioned in the past meeting that our projects don't run off of fiscal years. So when you look at sidewalk appropriations from prior years, sometimes it would seem like you would see a consistent cash flow on a monthly basis. Like, you know, we have $144,000 for the year, so we spend $12,000 a month on sidewalks. And we don't have that sort of consistent cash flow. And as an example, if you look at the sidewalk account that we have now with money that's been appropriated from the prior 2 fiscal years, all of that money is actually spent. We've spent $250,000 on sidewalks related to the paving project that we did last summer, but I haven't paid the final invoices yet. I also haven't even paid one invoice for the bike path repaving, which had a considerable amount of sidewalk work in it. So if you were to pull a financial report that says, okay, what is the status of this money and what account is it sitting in, it can look as though the money is not being spent, but the actual reality is that money is spent in huge chunks, and it is spent kind of, you know, 1 or 2 times after work has been completed for 6 or 7 months. So we won't actually pay the bills for this summer's paving project. We won't pay those final invoices until February or March. We won't pay the paving for the bike path invoices, you know, until March or April. And it creates a perception that we're actually not doing sidewalk work, which isn't the reality. So just a clarification on how the cash flow works for these construction projects.
Thank you. Councillor Clemmer.
Yeah, a couple of things. So I want to thank Councillor Dobbs. It really, when you put a face on these projects, it really makes helps you to realize what an impact this has on our town and on people. I know there's been some complaints about fixing the sidewalk up here in Village Hill. We're on the other side of the spectrum from the little boy that Jeremy was talking about. We have assisted living up here, and with a lot of people with walkers and that get around and try to get out and get some air. And we have a lot of other people that have various disabilities up here, adults in the affordable housing. And, you know, they need sidewalks. This is a really high traffic area. So yeah, that it's new. It's a newer neighborhood, but it's a lot of people passing through all day. So we need those projects done as well. And I echo Dubs. You know, I'm really glad that we have this extra money this year to put into these sidewalks so everybody can enjoy their neighborhood and get out and get some exercise. And a lot of these projects too, echoing what Director Lascalia said, they take time to get off the ground. She said something like there was 300 pages of some projects and that they put together. And if, you know, they put so much work into it and then they have to get bids. So it's not like they have to know that the money's going to be there to be able to get these bids. So, you know, it's not like you get a bill and then you pay it. You know, it's not an electric bill. It's a lot more involved in that. And then we learn about that in parking and transportation. And I'd like to invite Councilor Rothenberg to come to that meeting and hear what goes on behind the scenes. Yeah, so I'm really glad we have this money and we're going to be able to do this. And I'm excited about having our sidewalks fixed up.
Councilor Elkins.
Yeah, I just a couple of things I'd like to address. It's been repeated a few times that we haven't taken the time and that we don't know and the questions haven't been answered. Director Lascalia just gave an explanation for how the cycle of the fiscal year and construction and bidding are on the same cycle. And I know this is my second term, but just in this term, it is probably the third time she's given that explanation in a public meeting. And so that answer is the same. It does not change. It will continue to be the case. And it's just, you know, it's maybe a simpler way to explain it if folks are having trouble grasping it is that if you if you go and take out let's say a home equity loan line and you get disbursements over time as work is done, that there will be a point in time where if you look at the snapshot of an account on a given day, there will be money there that is meant for that purpose that the next day or the next week, if you looked, it will be gone because you will have had to pay the contractor and for the work to be done. There's a lot of things that we talk about here on the national level. Sort of budget and economics and finance don't work on the national level. The analogies to household expenses don't work very well. On the municipal level, they do in a lot of ways. So you know, there's some more moving parts. It works a little bit differently, but these in many ways aren't all that complicated. You know, you can't send something out to bid without knowing the money is there and knowing what the finance is approved, and we play an important part of that. And that is, you know, so Director Lascalia really can't start that process until she knows that money is there. So I wanted to point that out. The other thing is you don't look at you don't know the work is being done by looking at the account. You know the work's being done by seeing the work. We've seen the rail trail. We see the projects like over the last several years. North Street's been redone, and work on King Street, and you know major repaving. It is not a mystery where this money is going. We all see it every day in our travels, and so I just want to say it is clearly an insinuation that money is being misappropriated or misused. That is what is behind Councilor Rothenberg's charter objections and demands for more time. And I really, I mean, if you believe you have evidence of misappropriation, you know, please bring it. But the insinuations are terrible. They're terrible to those of us who are, you know, sitting in the room and have said we were going to do this service. It's terrible for the professional reputation and credibilities of the department heads and the people who come and work for our city. It is the thing that means we won't have good people come here and work if they know that they're going to have to sit in front of a council that insinuates literally that we would misspend money, that we would hide money, that we would not do the projects to the best of the ability, and that people's good work would be used to mislead us and mislead the people of Northampton, and it's really reached a point that's really difficult. I want to also just speak briefly because I did, and if you'll indulge me, Council President Jarrett, I know we're kind of on a little bit of a talk, but I do want to just address for a moment that I raised a charter objection about an order that hasn't yet been reached, but I would say I trust my colleagues here know that I would not have raised that charter objection had Councilor Rothenberg not already delayed the rest of our agenda. And I did that because I felt like that order needed to stay with it. I want to just say that if any counselor wants to pull something out and take more time to discuss it, the way you do that is you make a motion and you move to postpone and you make your case and we vote. And if it's the will of the council that we take that time, then we do. And if it's the will of the council that we move on, and we don't, we vote. And the charter objections are deeply offensive to our process. They're unilateral. They're undemocratic. And they waste our time and they waste the time of the department heads who come here and answer the same questions over and over and over again, all against a backdrop of insinuations of mismanagement and lack of expertise and lack of ethics. And, that's not what any of us signed up for, and that's not what any of them signed up for. And it is not a good use of our time. So for all kinds of reasons, I would ask that I hope we can revisit charter objections at some point in time. This has just been an abuse of the process that has just gone on for a year now. And it's just really well, there's just much more I would say, but I really hope that we can end the era of waste, this waste of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Elkins. We'll go to Councilor Rothenberg and then Councilor Labarge.
Thank you. I really appreciate Director Lascalia's response. I think my request then would be that as Director Nardi works towards, I hope, preparing these kinds of reports for us so that we can track this as the people who fund projects, it's really important for us to have all the details about the spending, right? As you start preparing more capital improvement spending projects for us, if you do, that would be important for us to know sort of what's been encumbered, what looks like it's there, but it's not really there. That kind of detail was not in the reports that you provided to me. And I think it would be really helpful. I'm really glad to hear that the work was done, and that would impact my decision-making. I think, that's sort of the last that I have to say about all of this. I bring it back to when I first started on council and I asked to see the general ledger. And the response was, well, it's too detailed, it's too long, it's got private information. It would be really cumbersome for us to produce it to you. And you probably don't want that level of detail. It's too much, it's thousands of pages. And my response was, okay, well, I understand that. Give me something then that's got more detail than what we're seeing at quarterly reports that you've already prepared, that you've given to the mayor, that she looks at when she's thinking about her budgets. And the response that I got, and I'll be publishing all of these on my website, is sort of my desire for information and how it goes when I ask for it. I'm often told, as I was in that case, we don't have that level of detail. We don't generate other reports. So I'm really just looking to see this council sort of exercise more of its financial acumen. I'm glad we're getting to the end of this meeting. You know, I'm looking forward to the next thing we're going to talk about the stabilization funds. But I just really need to close for Ward 3 on that note that it really does not feel like we are doing enough of representing our constituents' priorities, being their voice, and doing the financial analysis to really make sure that we understand the funding sources and the impacts this has on our whole ecosystem of spending, not just capital projects, but also operational budgets and reserves. Thank you.
Councillor Labarge, then Councillor Clemmer. You're muted, Councillor Labarge.
How's that?
That's good. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Thank you. I want to thank Councillor Elkins. I have to say, as long as I've been a councillor, only once was a charter objection brought forth. Once. And our council president is here. I have asked him that we really need to look at our charter very carefully because I just could not believe, and I think Marissa Elkins said exactly how I felt. And I know our council president was excellent to talk to about that situation because I really, really do feel it was being abused. Because as a councilor, like I said, of all the years, it was only used once. But anyways, I think it's a learning experience, but I am hoping, and I know we can start working on that charter and on the language also. But I've had many people throughout the city who have talked with me and the grocery stores right down the line asking what's going on with all this. You know, I'm just hoping that councilors can work together here. And it's not happening, and I don't know why. Because it should be. I've always called my directors, talk with them. I learn from them. That's part of our role. So, but also I'm a little uptight because there was something on Facebook where a councilor had mentioned that the finance committee does not do its work. That upset me because we do our work and always have in finance. We work with our finance director. We even call or go in her office and talk with her. But that bothered me. So, but anyways, it is what it is. And that's all I ask is for respect and dignity and work together in this council. It's got to be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Clemmer.
Yeah, I just want to thank Councillor Elkins. I echo a lot of what she said. And Director Lascalia and the other department heads, they go over every expense at these meetings. And it's very clear where the money goes. And they've repeated everything multiple times. And just for Ward 2, we don't need a monthly report from Director Lascalia on what she spent money on that month. I know if I need the information, I can get it. She's always available when I have questions, and I really appreciate that, as well as the other department heads. And I'd like to just speak for Ward 2 and not have other people speak for my ward. And yeah, it's just these delays don't help. You know, nobody. I'm open to talking to anybody, you know, with the open meeting laws within, you know, those parameters, but doesn't seem like the delays get us anywhere. There's no discussion, there's no new information. And like Councillor Elkins said, the same questions are just asked over and over and over again. So I don't know. I think the department heads are doing a great job. I've learned a lot this past year, and you know, they've been doing their job for decades. I've been doing this for 1 year now, and I trust a lot of what they're saying. And if I don't think something sounds legit, I will ask them about it and ask other people about it to explain it.
Thank you. I'd like to bring us back to the orders at hand. I do appreciate Councillor Elkins, your comments, and I do appreciate also that we may want to look at charter objections, since we changed our rules, they've functioned quite differently. Because we used to always have a first reading where that was the only time, first reading, and we would vote. And that was the only time a charter objection could be raised. So it really has changed. Because our rules have changed, the use of it has changed. So future discussion. So the orders at hand, is there further comment or questions on these three orders? I will make a comment on 24-200, which is the borrowing of $2 million for paving projects. I just want to appreciate how much this order, along with the $750,000 we've already approved, is going to help us get ahead of the decades of deferred maintenance on our roads and sidewalks, because when we do the roads, we're also doing the sidewalks that are beside them. And I do urge the mayor and the DPW to make traffic calming a stronger priority in these mill and overlay projects. I know there have been some excellent additions, but you know, I think road safety is a top issue for my constituents, and it's the time while we have the roads torn up to make these changes. And we should not be prioritizing the speed of traffic over safety. And you know, if you're on a dead-end street, if you're on a street that's already quite narrow, you probably don't have those speeding and problems. But if you have a wider street, if you have a street that's used for cut-throughs, if we don't have significant traffic calming as part of the repaving, then we're essentially prioritizing speed over safety. So I'd really encourage the mayor and together with the DPW to take a very close look at each of these projects. Thank you. Okay, we have three orders on the floor, and I'll go to a vote unless there's anything else. Roll call, please.
Councillor Maori,
Yes.
Councillor Moulton,
Yes.
Councillor Perry,
Yes.
Councillor Rothenberg,
Yes.
Councillor Dobbs,
Yes.
Councillor Elkins,
Yes.
Councillor Jarrett,
Yes.
Councillor Clemmer,
Yes.
and Councillor Labarge.
Yes.
Okay, those three orders, 24.196, 24.200, and 24.201, pass unanimously. Brings us.
Can we request a brief recess, Council President?
Absolutely. Let's do 6 minutes, come back at 7:24. Welcome back to the Northampton City Council special meeting. We are discussing one more item, and that is 23.203, in order to appropriate $2.8 million in free cash to various reserve accounts. At the Finance Committee, there was a presentation detailing free cash, and so there's a lot of detail presented there. So I would ask, let's get this on the floor for discussion. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
I think that was Labarge. Motion made by Councillor Moulton and seconded by Councillor Labarge. So is now on the floor for discussion.
Okay.
Councillor Maori.
Yeah, so I would like to offer an amendment to this order. I would like to move to approve 24.203 with a recommendation. And the recommendation would be, my suggestion is the mayor draw from the Fiscal Stability Stabilization Fund, the Stabilization Fund, and the FY25 General Fund undesignated fund balance, and make a mid-year appropriation to the school department for the of 451,220 to restore the 18 cut positions until the end of the year. And if council would humor me, I would share a spreadsheet that Bobby from the school department has shared with me. And I just want to say that I have been really looking forward to this opportunity to discuss this with my fellow counselors and with the mayor, because I know, last year people felt we didn't have the money. Now we have, this is going to be about 18 million, and before we kind of let go of it in our locus of control, I'd like us to kind of just think about, have a conversation about what we could do. I'm not talking about the next year's budget. I'm talking about this year. It's January. There's still time to kind of mitigate things going on at the school that are of concern. I would prefer not to put the schools and the school committee through the stress of getting to a place of a bigger crisis, having to go in executive session or have legal concerns, and then have to make an appropriation like we did with the paras. So I'm very much looking forward to hearing what you all think. But I would support this motion if we could make a recommendation.
Councillor, since you're making an amendment, we'll need a second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll second that.
Yes.
Okay, motion made by an amendment, motion made by Councillor Maori and seconded by Councillor Dubs to add a recommendation to this order.
Add a recommendation.
Go ahead, Councillor Maori.
Right. Is it okay, President, if I share this? I don't know if I'm doing it. Did you?
Yep, you're doing it. Yes.
Okay. So this is. I just wanted to show you. This is just from Bobby. From the school department. I asked her to write up this. What was in the mid-year. What that would look like.
And maybe you could zoom in.
Yeah.
And somewhere make it bigger. It's a little hard to see.
Thank you.
Okay, I can. If I do that, I can. But then I.
There you go.
Better.
Oh, did I do something?
No, go ahead.
Okay. I just thought and then I might have to, you can't see the whole thing. It's very tiny, but I can scroll up and down if anyone's interested. There's some notes here. The notes on the end here from Dr. Bonner also looked at this and added to it. And Dr. Bonner added the end line there. Yeah. So I also, when you all, I could share this in another way with the counselors. And when you've looked at this, I would like to just show you one more slide that I made that's related. Should I do? I don't know.
Are there informational questions, clarifying or informational questions about this particular slide sheet? Councillor Moulton.
Yes, thank you, Council Chair Maori, Finance Chair Maori, for putting this together. Does this represent the remainder of the fiscal year salary and benefits for these positions?
That's a good question, and that's something we'll have to ask. I think I only said no. I think it includes everything because I said how. Basically, my question I posed was if we wanted to restore positions, the positions that were cut, what amount of mid-year appropriation would we need? So that was a question, but I could certainly confirm that, if folks are interested. And I should have, maybe I can email this information to counselors. So yeah, just list the positions, and then you see that little note from Dr. Bonner says there were 2 partial reductions in the central office, but the superintendent does not wish to include them here, as she would rather see the schools get that money if we were going to do a mid-year appropriation. And I partly want to do this because I know we say don't just come with kind of a complaint, kind of come with some ideas, and I'm really just hoping I'm hoping that we can have a real a conversation based in real numbers because time is ticking, but it is January and we do have this opportunity to pivot slightly with the schools.
Good question.
Okay, clarifying questions about the data that's here before, because I think you had one more slide.
I have.
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Lavarge.
Yeah, Councillor Maori.
Yeah.
Has this been brought to our finance director also? Have you shown that to her?
I don't know if this is from Bobby and Dr. Bonner. I don't know if I don't know if they discussed it with the finance director. I mean, these are the school's numbers.
Oh, this probably is our finance director's first time seeing that also, right? And
I don't know. I know that Bobby consulted different folks. I don't know.
And especially the mayor, because she's chair on school committee and that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I want to have this discussion.
So this is their first time seeing this, correct?
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know who Bobby talked to.
So Director Nardi has her hand up, and was be a response to that question. Go ahead, Director Nardi.
Yes, so this is the first time I'm seeing this, and that does not include benefits. That is just direct salaries.
Great.
So that represents, I believe you said starting February 1st, or did you say January? February, well, obviously can't be January 1st. Sorry, February 1st. So that would just be 5 months salary for this year. Okay, and then you would have to multiply that, divide it by 5 and multiply it by 12 to get the $1,082,000 that it would cost next year added onto the budget.
Right, but I'm talking about this year. I understand that, I understand that if you wanted to continue that
right. But if you added it this year, it impacts next year. Yep.
Okay. I want to get these off the screen, and so
right,
are there any other so we can see each other again? Yeah. Are there any other clarifying questions about this? What we're seeing here, Councillor Clemmer?
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't know if you could see my hand or not. So it's almost January. It's almost February. These are a lot of positions. How long would it take to hire all these people and get them up to speed? We only have 5 months or whatever left for the.
I'm going to stop sharing this just because if that's okay. Because that's one. So this is really why this is. I wanted to come here with something. I didn't want to just come here with nothing to look at or talk about. But this is what the recommendation I'm looking to be added is that the mayor consult with the alt team, see what's fillable, what positions would be that are fillable, and what would be which positions would have the most impact in terms of the kind of stresses that we're hearing about right now. Mm-hmm. I'm really just talking about getting through the school year, mm-hmm. and so so that's these are questions I would love to discuss with those who would know the answer. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I want to wait. What am I doing here?
Councillor Clemmer, did you have more?
Yeah, just along the same lines. So I mean, these are a lot of positions to fill and people need training. And I'm assuming the children have their classes all set for this second semester in school. So how would, I mean,
Well,
how would it
well,
work to add in all these different classes now and just get the kind of lay of the land for this,
Right.
for all this?
Why don't we, that's a great question. And why don't we discuss that after Councilor Maori shares the second screen. So just so we can get all the numbers out here to look at.
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
then we can have more of a discussion of the implications.
Right. Thank you. And I will have, I have a thought about that. So can you see it? You can see this?
Yes.
The new one? Yes, I'm doing it. Okay. So this was just, this is from Director Nardi, and the only thing I did here was I added the line. So this is, I wanted to have a specific kind of motion to make. So if you split that, if it's, if you split the 451, 220 between between the fiscal stability and the stabilization fund and the undesignated general fund undesignated balance, then it's 150,406 and 67 cents each that would be taken away from those three funds. So I'm just giving you an example. So if we did that, here's the oh, you can't see my top thing, can you? Sorry. Up here is so this would be the difference. So this is up here is the general fund, the FY25 general fund undesignated fund balance. That's what we would have after all the orders that we've already approved. That's what's there. And if we did this order and split it into three, that's the amount that would be left in the general fund. And then down here in that same scenario, you can see fiscal stability and stabilization. Now, I mean, the folks in the school department, maybe there's the special ed stabilization. I wanted to have a specific scenario, but you could certainly think of other ways to divide up things from the funds. So that's so that's what I wanted to share with you. And do you want me to stop sharing it, or I can?
Yeah, and since these have been shared at the meeting, it would be great if you, Laura, could forward these to the whole council.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, stop share. Oh, okay. Yay, and here we are. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Maori, for presenting that information. Are there any other clarifying questions about the numbers that we've seen? Mayor Shara?
So, hi, and not so much about the numbers. So thank you. I appreciate the thought and the creativity that went into this. I just want to understand your intention, because you said this would just be for this year, but so we've already rolled in a lot of one-time fiscal stabilization money. And so for this not to become a deficit, like in a couple months, we would need to roll in like an additional $1 million. Otherwise, so is it your intention that these positions would be created right now and then fired at the end in June?
I don't have an intention about fire or not. I'm telling you, that's why I'm going to have this conversation. What I'm saying is, and we can talk about what's actually fillable and what would have impact. I mean, we just hired 2 paras, and I guess my answer, or my response at least, to Councilor Clemmer is yes. I mean, I think that's true that like a teacher that doesn't exist, if we hired them now and people have their schedule set. But there's a lot of positions like paras and like support positions that could really, make a significant impact in lessening the stress. And this is something really that, the alt team and the mayor and school committee would know a lot more about. But I just wanted to I want to plant the seed that I think we need to consider. We have $18 million. We have what I consider a rainy day in some sense, at least in certain areas of the school, of the functioning of the school. I don't think it's across the board, but I think there's areas. And if we could identify those and get through the school year, and appropriate some amount to the schools from this, I think it would really. I think my sense is a significant amount of stress would be alleviated by probably a little bit, like this is the 450, even if I guess I brought the high number because even if we fully funded all those positions, we're still talking only, in terms of, the salaries, only 450. So I'm just saying, so I think there's different ways to do it, but I would like to approve this order, but I feel for me, there has to be some sort of recommendation that this is considered, that this is that there's some allocation to the schools, because we're hearing all these issues. There's not enough bodies in the schoolroom. In the lunchroom. There's missing paras. And I feel like there's something we could do about it here to get through this school year. And it's very true that we will have to have a plan. The idea isn't that you can't use rainy day funds or non-recurring revenue. It's that you don't do that without a plan. So that is very true. But I feel like we have some little rainy days, going on in our school system, and this is an opportunity to make some difference. But I'd love to hear what people's thoughts.
Can I just respond quickly?
Yes.
Excuse me. So there's no doubt that this would relieve stress. I'll speak for myself. It would relieve stress for now. But so the key point is, unless we can find a way to build this in to the budget and have it recur, then this will become a deficit. We won't be able to fund that. We already have to build in $2 million that we've pulled from one-time stabilization funds, right? So you mentioned the 2 paras that were funded. So I said I will do this mid-year, but I'm committing that we have to figure out how to then double that and build them into the budget next year, because I'm not going to build something in that can't be sustained and then have someone have a job for 4 months. And then have us go through this agony again. So what I'm not hearing is the plan for how this, 450, I think it was, will be more than $1 million next year.
Right.
And so we would have to know how that was going to be funded and then sustained, so that the year after, that $1.2 million or whatever, whatever it would be, would have funds to cover it, so that we don't then find ourselves with, again, a multi-million-dollar deficit.
Do you want to just go on to?
Yeah,
no, I was just going to say, no, and that's why I want to have the conversation. It wouldn't be, I wanted to start this conversation. I don't know that it'd even be responsible of me to have a plan, mapped out without the school department, the alt team, and school committee involved. I'm saying, what I would like to see happen is that we approve this order with the recommendation that we, discuss this, that we talk to the alt team, identify the areas that are most impacted and fillable, and that we make an appropriation and then have to make a plan. Yes. But so that's what I'm looking for. But yeah, that's why I want to discuss it. I think it's the plan would have to be a collaboration.
Right. And just to be clear, your amendment is a recommendation to appropriate this amount. I'll go to Councilor Rothenberg and then Councilor Elkins.
Yes, I'm just curious how we are going to make those documents available to the public that Councilor Maori showed today.
Well, I will send them.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
They're already in the record, then turned on YouTube. that you can go back and now see them since they were shared on the screen, and they are a public record. So and I believe Laura has sent them to all counselors so that they can.
I haven't yet. One I'm unable to share, but I will send the ones. The last two ones.
Yeah,
the one spreadsheet from Bobby Jones, the business manager. But I'll share the other one right now.
Okay, I'll work on that.
Could we link to them on our council website?
Well, they can become part of the permanent record of the meeting. So those documents are often documents like that can be attached to the minutes.
Perfect.
Is that correct, Laura?
That's correct.
Right.
Thank you.
Councillor Elkins.
Never mind.
Okay.
I think I sent it.
Councillor Moulton.
Yeah. So, Council Mayor, your amendment would attach a recommendation to the mayor, and correct. And I mean, I think that's the most we can do. I mean, we can't initiate a financial order, so that would be a step that we could take to recommend that the mayor consider, in consultation, I presume you mean with both with the administration and the school committee, what positions are most critical to bring back for the rest of this school year. Is that, am I summarizing your intent correctly?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. So,
if I would clarify, maybe Laura could clarify, the motion currently on the floor is to request that the mayor appropriate a dollar figure of 400 and some thousand.
Yes,
and do all the other things too in consultation with, etc. So that I just wanted to clarify that is the motion that we are discussing now.
Can I repeat the motion as I heard it?
Yes, please.
To offer an amendment with the recommendation that the mayor draw from the Fiscal Stability Stabilization Fund and FY 2025 free cash and make a mid-year appropriation of $451,220 to restore the 18 cut positions until the end of the year.
Okay, Councillor Moulton, proceed. Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Yes.
well, I'm glad you did clarify that, because that's a very specific recommendation that we're making. I don't know, Councilor Mayor, do you want to respond to that?
Right. I was because I've never actually amended with a recommendation. I thought we needed to ground it in a specific number. I could withdraw my motion for another, if there's another recommendation, and we perhaps would have to check in with President Jarrett about, what constitutes an amendment to a motion. But anyway, I wanted to, yes. So I think I can consider withdrawing that motion for another motion that doesn't have that specific amount, if and we can discuss that. But the reason I did that is I think that I needed to have something specific to add a recommendation, to the motion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, can I proceed?
Yes, please.
Now,
Go
Council
ahead.
President. So that's really up to you, Council Mayor, what you ultimately want to do with that amendment. The points I want to make are, again, I think it's important, if we're talking specific figure, that we include all the cost of hiring up to 18 school staff at this point. So that would have to include benefits as well as salaries. So we need to get the total figure. I am not in favor of hiring staff for a 5-month period with no expectation that they would stay on, for reasons that the mayor just explained, and also uh, it's just it's not. I don't think that is a very responsible way to fund, to address the current concerns in the school, in the schools now. That we've got to build this into a sustainable budget, as we have already with, as the mayor mentioned, with the $1.98 million in fiscal stability money that we've already added to the school department this year. So it's just, I understand that you see an opportunity, Council Maori, to sort of address and get through the school year, but I don't see it in that vacuum. I think we've got to think of it as part of a holistic approach that would take account of next year's budget as well.
Councilor Maori?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a follow-up question to Councilor Moulton. So when we, for example, approved the 2 para positions, I believe that vote was unanimous. So what was it about that made it okay for you to feel like you could support that?
So, may I respond?
Yes.
Yeah. That was my understanding of that. Was the expectation is that that 40,000 is included as the base budget that will be built on for next year for the school department, so that those 2 para positions that are being hired now, assuming that the superintendent sees the need for them next year, would be part of the staff continuing on.
Thank you.
Councilor Elkins.
I want to echo what the reservations, Councilor Moulton just shared. It is also the assurances by the mayor that she would roll those para or at least the money for those para positions into the budget going forward. That gave me some reassurance that, at least that was sort of the baseline. I have a lot of reservations about hiring people that we can't guarantee will continue to have a job. I also, and I will note, the last time I mentioned my own experience with the Northampton Public Schools, I was roundly pilloried on social media in ways that were
I'm looking to do that here.
No, I know, but I just want to offer that I also, on a personal level, have reservations about how we would, and I know you're not, Councilor Maori. It's never been so, but I do want to acknowledge that. That on a personal level, I have real concerns about disrupting the schedules that are in place, the mechanisms that we have, what's already in place. I candidly wonder about the quality of folks who would be available mid-year, and whether or not, even if they were very, very good folks, whether or not we could get them up to speed. We have a special school district. I think that it is a lot to ask people to come in mid-year and integrate, and it's a lot to ask of our kids to integrate a whole new teachers and disrupt their schedules and to redo everything that our superintendent and administrators and the teachers working with what they had to work with this year went to put in place. So I couldn't support this amendment because I just, in all kinds of practical ways, I just don't see how we do this responsibly. So I also want to say, though, I do appreciate you bringing something specific forward for us to talk about and for us to vote on. And but I'm not going to be in a position to vote in favor of this amendment. So I don't know if that's going to mean voting no and then coming back and voting, on an order without it, or procedurally how that goes. But I don't feel like I can support that.
So if the amendment doesn't pass, then we would just vote on the order without.
Right. So the amendment has to. I'm sorry to interrupt, Council President.
No, go ahead.
So it's just the amendment that would be voted on. It's
right.
Correct. Okay. Thank you.
Other councilors, folks who haven't, Councilor Labarge, yes.
Thank you, Councilor. I understand where Councilor Miura is coming from. We're at the point we're trying to get what we ever can get to get positions back. Hearing from the mayor now saying, you're going to hire people back and they're going to be gone in 4 or 5 months. That's hurtful. That's hurtful. That bothers me. I'm just uncomfortable of doing something this way right now, but I understand what you're doing, Counselor. Believe me, you're trying everything in your heart to get those positions back. I don't think this will last 5 months, 6 months, because I really feel that right now we're going to be in worse condition if we do this. And we're going to look really bad hiring people, and we're going to lose them. So I'm uncomfortable with it. I would love to have more money coming in than replacing those positions. I don't know where we're going to get this money. And I think with our finance director and also the mayor saying where this might lead us to the next 4 months or 5 months and saying you no longer have your job. Who would want a job like that? So that's my thoughts.
Thank you. Sorry, just seeing if anyone, unless that's a direct response, if anyone else who hasn't spoken wishes to speak. Okay, Councilor Mary.
Oh, no, yeah, no, I hear you. I guess that's the thing, though, and to speak to Councilor Elkin's experience, too, I think the people who really are in the best position to say, part of the recommendation would be to consult with the alt team and the school system, because they are saying that they would love to have the new staff. So I don't pretend, but to speak to your experience, I think that's the issue, is that they are these what I feel, my take is that there are crises. There may not be across the board in every school the same thing, and we would have to identify what the places of the best of impact, and I think the school committee and the school department, those are the people who could tell us who they could hire or not hire. I mean, I hear you, and it's not something. It's something that they would have to they could answer, and it's not our area really, and so it's really for them, and that's why I wanted to recommend that this go over there for that conversation. I want that conversation to happen. I think you can add sections. It could be disruptive, or maybe it would alleviate a lot of stress. Maybe there's people you could hire temporarily in the lunchroom. Maybe there's teachers you need to carry over. I mean, these are all the big questions, and I don't want to try to have a proxy school committee meeting, but I felt like we have $18 million, and I felt like we needed to acknowledge, and this is, a difference we can have, but I feel like there are rainy days happening in these schools in different parts, and functionings. We have those funds. It's only January, and if we could make some sort of impact, I would like to do that. But I hear your reservations, and I think that probably the best people to answer to those concerns are not here. So, and I would love to hear more. But before I forget, I had the kind of process question, because I think we can make a recommendation at any time. I mean, I think this may not be our only opportunity to think about recommendations.
Absolutely, it could be in the form of a resolution. Sure. There are various ways to do a recommendation.
Yeah, so I'm just hoping the conversation can. I mean, I think that How do you do it?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
And let's remember that what we're voting on tonight is essentially, it's moving money between accounts. It's not appropriating any money. It's something like moving money from your checking account to your savings account. You can move it back, and it can be appropriated in various ways as well at some point. So it's not something that actually causes us to spend money, is my point. I wanted to ask the mayor and or Director Nardi what it would take to roll in, and I imagine next week we're probably going to see projections that show, okay, if we added this much, what would it mean? What would be possible? What would it mean for our reserves? But what would it take to actually roll this in? And be able to sustain that additional million over into future years, because I think that's an important. Like, I'm not comfortable supporting a recommendation at this point with a particular dollar amount, because I haven't seen any projection that shows how additional funding can be sustained. I don't know if Mayor Scher or Director Nardi would feel like speaking to that. And I understand, next week will be a time when you are more prepared to speak to the future of funding.
Yeah, I mean, I'll hand it to Director Nardi. I'm not sure she could give you an answer at this moment, but you're right. Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not prepared to talk about that because it's not just the $1 million, as somebody pointed out. It health insurance. So we estimate for an employee who gets full benefits and health insurance, that's about $20,000 per employee. That's with a family plan. So just figuring 16,000 per 18 employees, is $288,000. The payroll taxes have to be calculated on that salary too. So yeah, tonight I'm not ready to, but certainly if that's the mayor, and I can talk about bringing that forward in a presentation if she would like that done.
Thank you. Councilor Lavarch.
Yes, just off the books in the Gazette. Everybody must have read it. Where Amherst Regional and all are in the same predicament we're in. They're talking about over 20 or 20 more positions that are going to be lost. So can you imagine all our cities, we're all having this big head, and here we have Councilor Moriori trying to do her best to try to save positions here. And it's not an easy job. That's all.
Councilor Perry.
Yeah, I mean, we all know that schools everywhere need help. That's not a debatable fact. For me personally, I wish I had more time to look at these numbers. It is really difficult to discuss things that I just saw flash on the screen for a bit. So I'm looking forward to parsing it up. But I think that it's important to have a plan. The reason why I voted to go to your question to Councilor Moulton for the paras is that, as Mayor Shara said tonight, that she is planning to roll that in, doubling it plus factoring those things in. That is a different situation than suggesting that we just hire some folks for a couple months. I've spent a lot of my life managing people, running businesses, and I know that I would not be comfortable bringing someone on for a couple months. As you said, Councilor Maori, that there are other people with some expertise who should talk about this. So then that pushes this up weeks. I don't know how long we're going to, that discussion would have to happen. So just say 2-3 weeks, then we're getting closer to the end of the school year. It feels to me that this is something that should be discussed, but I don't think it should be implemented now. And that is why I don't think I can support it. But I love having these discussions. I'm looking forward to talking about ways that we can improve schools and figure out a way to bring in more support. But again, as people have said, I worry about retention. I worry about people just being like, well, I only have this job and there's no security, so why would I stay here? Would you do the best job possible if you only had a couple, weeks or months to do your job? And that's a question that people would pose. I'm hoping that we are able to build a robust school system where folks feel happy to come and know that their job is secure. So that is my thought process right now. And again, having a solid plan how to retain these positions is paramount to me, because it requires a lot more than just paying a salary. As people said, it's insurance, it's all the other things that come along with being an employee here in Northampton. So that's just where I am.
Councillor Elkins.
Yeah, and I do just want to add that even if there were a way that we could articulate and find a way or we articulated an intention to keep folks that were hired mid-year, that if it proved we could not, if the financial realities or fiscal realities were that we could not, these are the people who definitely would go first because they'd be the least senior people under any circumstances. So it is also just worth pointing out that it also doesn't matter what our intentions are, that if the realities on the ground and the superintendent and our administrators say this is who we need and what we want, that if we can't guarantee that they can stay, that we're just to my mind we've made the problems worse. So that's all.
Councillor Maori.
Yeah, so just to remind people, it's a recommendation. It's non-binding, and I guess the way I thought it would, this is the list of the positions cut, and if the way it could work is, of course, if you can't fill them, then that money would not go towards that, and so it wasn't. But that was the amount I thought you kind of needed to put aside to do that investigation, hopefully much quicker than what we were talking about, to find those positions that are most impacted and fillable. And I really think, I hear these concerns, but what we're hearing from, I'm hearing from school committee and school staff is this would make a huge positive impact. And it's kind of something they could, that we really, I don't think it's fair of us to just say, oh, it wouldn't work without them, finding out that that's true, because what's happening right now isn't really working for everybody. And so I think we have to factor that in. And it's really just to recommend that we address this. But I also want to say that I know we're tired, and this is, no special meetings are, we're not always planned for, but I think this is a really important conversation that we're having. And I want to thank you. I think if we didn't have this conversation, I think it would be worse for the community. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, Councillor Maori. Back to Councillor Perry.
I just wanted to just kind of address what Councillor Maori said, in that I agree that people who are on the ground believe that having extra positions would work, but I am uncertain when they're thinking about that, whether they're taking the whole picture of, again, insurance, what the actual reality of that entails. And that often falls upon people like ourselves or management and things like that. So, obviously this is two different things, but I could always use an extra person to do work for me to make it easier. But financially, that doesn't make it feasible. So I often have to balance whether or not bringing another person on staff and all that entails, like payroll, all those things, makes it so that everyone is benefiting. And so those are the questions that we're talking about. It's not a question of whether or not this will help, but how do we sustain it is what I am grappling with. So I just want to make it very clear that's where I am, is that those calls do not often entail that intricate detail of thinking past just having a person there to help. So.
Thank you. So I I would love to support a mid-year appropriation and one that would continue into future years, even if partial of either what Councilor Bayory's amount. But yeah, we need to, the financial implications of that certainly need to be considered and weighed. I would say the question of, I hear a lot about concerns about, are we fulfilling IEPs? Or are there grievances that will, is it worth trying to get ahead of any of that? Because is it just gonna cost us more? And I'm sure, the mayor and school administration are thinking about those issues. But that's certainly a point where, we wouldn't want to, if like we do with capital projects, when we look at the future questions of, if we don't spend now, we're just going to have to spend more later. If there is an area here where it would be worth, even if it's a small amount, that's something I think we should strongly consider. There would be strongly, we could consider recommending. But there would be implications to that. It would involve cuts to other departments. It would involve, we would, that implication, there would be probably significant implications. Councilor Rothenberg.
Yeah, I'm just going to keep my thoughts pretty much to myself tonight and let the past record speak for itself as far as how Ward 3 feels about all of this. But I did just want to note that the school committee is meeting next week, I believe, to discuss mid-year appropriations. So in direct response to your point, that's probably a meeting to follow to see what comes out of that. Thanks.
And a request from the school committee would certainly be something we would consider and discuss, I'm sure. Any other discussion on this amendment or recommendation? Okay, then let's have a roll call on the amendment.
Can you go over the amendments?
Laura, would you read the amendment again?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. The amendment was to approve the order with the recommendation that the mayor draw from the Fiscal Stability Stabilization Fund and FY 2025 free cash and make a mid-year appropriation, excuse me, of $451,220 to restore 18 cut positions until the end of the year.
I think that there was one more fund you recommended, as I recall. You also recommended from the stabilization fund, the general stabilization
the fiscal
fund.
Stability Stabilization Fund and the 2025 general fund undesignated fund balance.
Okay. So it's just the two funds, right? I just called it free cash instead of undesignated fund balance.
I mean, my recommendation was 3 funds.
Oh, I missed one then. I apologize.
No, that's okay. The fiscal stability fund. I'm sorry, the fiscal stability stabilization fund, the stabilization fund. And basically the ones that, we can't draw from capital or climate, and then so the third one was the general fund, undesignated fund.
Okay. So,
Councilor Labarge.
Yes, okay, there's 4 of them here. So you just mentioned 3, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just 3.
Yeah. And to be clear, this is not to approve the order, it's to approve an amendment.
Okay.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilor Moulton.
No.
Councilor Perry.
No.
Councilor Rothenberg.
Yes.
Councilor Dobbs.
Yes.
Councilor Elkins.
No.
Councilor Jarrett.
No.
Councilor Clemmer.
No.
Councilor Labarge.
No.
and Councilor Maori.
Yes.
So the motion fails with 3 yes votes and 6 no. So now we're just back to discussing the order before us to appropriate 2.8 million free cash to various reserve accounts.
I'd move to approve.
It's already been moved.
Oh, sorry.
It's on the floor. It just if there's further discussion before we go to a vote.
Okay.
Councilor Moulton.
Yeah, I want to repeat what I said at the Finance Committee meeting on January 8th and what Council President Jarrett said tonight. This is merely moving money from different buckets to 4 buckets. It is not precluding additional appropriations for the school department or any other department. They would likely come from the Fiscal Stabilization Fund, from which we've already drawn 1.98 million for the school department. So we're not precluding anything in this vote. We're moving money into different buckets.
That's right.
Okay. Roll call, please, on approval 24.203.
Councilor Perry,
Yes.
Councilor Rothenberg,
No.
Councilor Dobbs,
Yes.
Councilor Elkins,
Yes.
Councilor Jarrett,
Yes.
Councilor Clemmer,
Yes.
Councilor Labarge,
Yes.
Councilor Maori,
No.
and Councilor Moulton.
Yes.
So that passes with 7 yes votes and 2 noes. Thank you again, Councilor Maori, for bringing the amendment and having this discussion. I look forward to more. That's all on our agenda, so I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Motion made by Councilor Maori and seconded by Councilor Labarge. Roll call, please, on adjournment.
Councilor Rothenberg,
Yes.
Councilor Dobbs,
Yes.
Councilor Elkins,
Yes.
Councilor Jarrett,
Yes.
Councilor Clemmer,
Yes.
Councilor Labarge,
Yes.
Councilor Maori,
Yes.
Councilor Moulton,
Yes.
and Councilor Perry.
Yes.
All right, thank you all very much. And a reminder that we have a special meeting of us, the school committee, Smith Folk, and the superintendents next Thursday, January 30th on Zoom.
Good night.
See you then. We are adjourned.
Thank you. Good night.
I go to work. You guys.